The United States on Wednesday released the official text of the Memorandum of Understanding reached last weekend between the United States and the Islamic Republic of Iran to end hostilities. The 14-point document, read out by a senior U.S. administration official yesterday, includes provisions for reopening the Strait of Hormuz, easing some economic restrictions on Iran, and hopes to address Iran's nuclear program in future technical talks. A 60-day period will begin to negotiate the final terms of the agreement. Under this, the United States and Iran will immediately and permanently cease military operations on all fronts and agree not to launch any further war or military action against each other, followed by a resolution of the United Nations Security Council to approve the final agreement after 13 strategic documents have been finalized. The Africa CDC is warning that the Ebola outbreak in Dr. Congo could reach its worst in history. The number of confirmed cases in the country rose to 837, including 196 deaths, according to government figures on Tuesday. If we don't stop the outbreak as soon as possible, it will be worse than what we had in West Africa and Eastern DRC. Africa CDC Director General Jean Kasia told a virtual meeting of African leaders and international donors in Burundi on Tuesday. Officials said tens of thousands of people who may have been infected with Ebola have yet to be traced or contacted. Contact tracing is a key indicator and a major problem. We have more than 26,000 people missing. We don't know where they are. We don't know if they are infecting others. A Red Cross official said the epidemic in the country had not yet reached its peak. We fear it will take another year to end this disease, said Bruno Michan, operations manager for the International Federation of Red Cross and Red Crescent Societies. The response has been hampered by a lack of treatment facilities and community resistance to strict hygiene measures. Health officials say the true extent of the outbreak is still unknown more than a month after it was declared. The bodies of Ebola victims are highly infectious after death, and unsafe traditional burials, where family members handle the bodies without proper protective equipment, are also a major factor in the spread of the disease. Burundian President Evariste Ndayishimiye, who also chairs the African Union, said the continent has so far raised less than a fifth of the $518 million needed to strengthen measures to contain the outbreak. The shortfall has raised concerns among authorities, who fear the consequences of the virus could be devastating if it is not brought under control quickly. There is no approved treatment or vaccine for this Ebola strain. The World Health Organization, WHO, says it could take up to 9 months for a vaccine to be ready. Neighboring Uganda has reported 19 cases, 14 of which are in people who traveled from the DRC. The country has also reported 2 deaths. Meanwhile, news of survival is coming from the epicenter of the Ebola outbreak in Congo. Health workers celebrated the recovery of a patient who had recovered from the disease with song and dance. It is strange to see song and dance in a place that has seen so many deaths. On Friday afternoon, about a dozen health workers lined up on the green lawns and sang hymns as they carried Daniel Kitambala out of the clinic. God has been gracious to us. He has been gracious to the sick. After spending about 3 weeks there, 2 Ebola tests confirmed that he did not have the virus. That disease is terrible. I was very sick when I came here, but God is great. I am fine now, Kitambala, a devout Christian, told this reporter as doctors continued to cheer. A historic Ukrainian monastery has been damaged in a Russian attack, killing 10 people. The 11th century Dormition Cathedral was the worst hit. Zelensky called it one of the greatest Russian crimes against Christian culture today. Drone and missile strikes set buildings and cars ablaze, and more than 140,000 people in Kiev were left without power, its mayor Vitaly Klitschko said. The Dormition Cathedral is part of the Kiev-Pechersk Lavra, an architectural ensemble of monastic buildings that is a UNESCO World Heritage Site. A gap could be seen in one side of the church, and flames could be seen from a partially collapsed roof. Zelensky said Russia launched 70 missiles and 611 drones overnight and extinguished the fire. French President Emmanuel Macron condemned the attack, calling it an attack on our universal heritage, while EU Foreign Policy Chief Kaja Kallas called the attacks war crimes. The attacks came ahead of a G7 meeting of world leaders in France this week, where the war in Ukraine is high on the agenda. This is not the first time the cathedral has been attacked during Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine, which began in 2022. In January, Ukraine's Culture Ministry said several buildings in the Kiev-Pechersk Lavra complex had been damaged in a Russian attack. The UN agency also condemned the attack on one of the most important spiritual and cultural landmarks in Ukraine. Ukrainian drones launch massive strikes in Moscow, including at oil refinery. Ukrainian drones have launched multiple strikes across Moscow, hitting oil refineries, city buildings, and the capital's airports. The long-range strike was powerful enough to shut down operations at the main oil refinery in the Kapotno area. It was the second such attack in 2 days, and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky called it a justified response to Russian aggression. The Ukrainian strikes followed a major attack by ballistic missiles and drones in Kyiv, including at the nearly 1,000-year-old monastery of the Kyiv-Pechersk Lavra. Air defense forces are continuing to repel the large-scale attack. Several drones have reached the Moscow oil refinery, Moscow Mayor Sergei Sobyanin said. A number of shopping centers were also damaged. He claimed to have shot down about 180 drones heading towards the capital. At least 7 drones appeared to have breached Russia's air defenses to attack targets in the city, halting air travel. Russia, the world's third-largest oil producer and a major exporter of oil and fuel, said it would import fuel by sea this month to help ease a shortage following widespread Ukrainian drone attacks on its refineries. In the surrounding Moscow region, a multi-story residential building, an industrial facility and several private homes were hit by drone strikes, the regional governor said. Moscow's busiest Sheremetyevo airport suspended flights and evacuated people. Some people sought shelter in a parking area, the airport said. A U.S. Air Force B-52 bomber has crashed in California after catching fire. A U.S. military B-52 Stratofortress bomber crashed shortly after takeoff from Edwards Air Force Base in Southern California's Mojave Desert. All 8 crew members aboard were presumed to have been killed, Air Base officials say in a statement released on Monday. The 8-engine, jet-powered Boeing aircraft built to carry nuclear and conventional bombs was on a routine test mission when it went down. Aerial video footage of the crash scene, about 100 miles north of Los Angeles, showed a charred, smoldering patch of the desert floor roughly the size of a football field as an emergency vehicle was seen driving along the site's perimeter. Extensive drug smuggling tunnel discovered between the U.S. and Mexico. The U.S. Attorney's Office for the Southern District of California released video of a 2,000 FT long tunnel between border cities in Mexico and the United States. The tunnel was complete with electricity, reinforced walls, ventilation, and a rail system, according to federal officials. It was discovered during a months-long investigation into a warehouse for a supposed discount store in San Diego. 4 people have been arrested and charged with trafficking more than $45 million in cocaine. All 4 men could face a maximum of life in prison if convicted. U.S. musician Oliver Tree, 32, has died in a helicopter crash in Brazil. 2 helicopters collided in Rio de Janeiro on Sunday morning, crashing in the western part of the city, Recreio dos Bandeiras. Rio de Janeiro's military fire department said a helicopter crashed into a car dealership, where several electric vehicles were parked, and the fire was extinguished. Officials said an investigation was underway to determine the cause of the collision. Tree, 32, was in Brazil on a world tour and was on one of the helicopters that crashed. The singer's passengers, including Brazilian music producer, Argentine video director and Argentine YouTuber Gaspar Prim, all died. He performed in Buenos Aires, Argentina on June 4, and on Saturday shared a video on his Instagram of himself playing soccer in a Brazilian neighborhood. He was scheduled to perform more than 70 shows in 30 countries across 7 continents during his world tour. U.S. diplomat found dead in Myanmar. Myanmar police are treating the case of a U.S. diplomat found dead in Myanmar as a possible homicide. A Thai woman has been taken into custody by police in connection with the investigation into the death of a U.S. diplomat in a hotel in Myanmar's largest city, Yangon. Members of the diplomatic community in Yangon said. U.S. officials in Thailand and the U.S. Embassy in Myanmar referred questions about the case to the State Department, which confirmed the death of a U.S. government employee assigned to the embassy in Yangon, but gave no other details. 3 people in the diplomatic community in Myanmar speaking on condition of anonymity because they were not authorized to discuss the case. Said the man was found dead at the Sakura Residence Hotel 2 weeks ago. The long-term rental facility is popular with diplomats, businessmen and other international visitors, and is located about 1.5 kilometers from the U.S. Embassy. The Thai Embassy in Yangon and the Thai Foreign Ministry declined to say whether they had provided consular support to the suspect or any other information. Russian artist and critic of Putin and Chechen leader Semyon Skrepetsky, alias Kuzovkov, has been shot dead in Poland. A Russian artist who criticized Vladimir Putin and Chechen leader Ramzan Kadyrov was shot dead in the eastern Polish town of Biała Podlaska, a prosecutor said. The victim was shot 5 times in the attack on Monday, including one in the head, said Marcin Kozak, a spokesman for the district prosecutor in Lublin. 2 Belarusians have been detained in connection with the case. Local media identified the victim as Robert Kuzovkov. He is a Russian artist and presenter known for his criticism of the Russian leader. Kozak confirmed that the victim was involved in artistic activities that criticized the current actions of the Russian authorities. Belarusian opposition Telegram channel Dzik Media, citing unnamed sources, reported that an unidentified man had attempted to jump over the fence of the country's consulate in Biała Podlaska while fleeing from police but was caught. 3 days before his killing, Skrepetsky had traveled to Berlin on the June 12 Russia Day holiday, a symbol of the country's declaration of sovereignty before the collapse of the Soviet Union, where he held a protest with an icon-like caricature of Joseph Stalin and Putin, the Meduza news agency reported. Poland says its role as a hub for military and other supplies to Ukraine has made it a target for Russian spies seeking to gather information about Kiev's efforts to resist Russia's invasion and engage in subversive activities. Skrepetsky was born in Russia's Altai region and lived there until 2021, when he fled to Poland fearing political persecution. Moscow has previously targeted foreign critics, but some Russian artists and critics in exile have said they believe the killing bears the hallmarks of an operation ordered by Kadyrov. The United Nations says more than 1,000 civilians have been killed this year in Sudan's civil war. The country's 3-year civil war is entering a more dangerous phase, with both sides sending advanced weapons into civilian areas with deadly intent. The number of deaths has reached its highest in the first 5 months of this year. The conflict has deepened and expanded, UN Deputy Human Rights Chief Awad Dabo told the Human Rights Council in Geneva, describing an increase in drone attacks by the Sudanese Armed Forces, the SAF, and the Paramilitary Rapid Support Force and RSF. The international community must act urgently to protect the Sudanese people and avert a wider crisis, she said. The UN has documented at least 16 drone attacks on health facilities and 33 attacks on markets in the first 5 months of the year. The attacks are concentrated in Darfur and Kordofan, but also extend to Blue Nile, White Nile and Khartoum states. The pattern of repeated airstrikes using drones on markets, health facilities and water and energy infrastructure raises serious concerns under international humanitarian law, Ms. Dabo said. The pattern of repeated airstrikes using drones on markets, health facilities and water and energy infrastructure raises serious concerns under international humanitarian law. And we condemn the continued targeting of civilian infrastructure, including schools, markets and hospitals, she said. The comments came after the United Nations fact-finding mission in Sudan reported arbitrary detention, torture and enforced disappearances by both sides in the conflict, and called for an immediate end to the abuses of international human rights and humanitarian law. Tens of thousands of sailors are stranded in the Strait of Hormuz. At least 14 have died and thousands more are stranded. The conditions for sailors stranded in the Strait of Hormuz are dire. The US-Iran deal to be signed on Friday may offer hope to tens of thousands of merchant mariners stranded in the Strait of Hormuz. But the deal, which has been a brutal ordeal for many, is unlikely to end anytime soon. This is a good start at best, the International Transport Workers Federation, a global body of transport workers unions, said in a statement on Monday. Iran and the US have seized and attacked commercial vessels accused of violating restrictions imposed in the Strait of Hormuz and surrounding waters during the 109-day war. At least 14 merchant mariners, including 3 Indian nationals who were killed in a US attack on an Iranian tanker last week, have died in the war. Others have been injured, taken into custody by soldiers or stranded at sea in hellish conditions. According to business intelligence firm Kepler, about 600 ships are stranded in the Persian Gulf. Shipping companies expect it to take weeks or months for normal traffic through the Strait of Hormuz to resume. The narrow strait is the only way to enter or leave the Gulf. Words on paper must now be translated into action for the transport workers who have paid the price of this conflict, said the International Transport Workers Federation, which is already working on evacuation plans with the United Nations International Maritime Organization. Benjamin Netanyahu says Israel will defend itself against Iran, as U.S. proposals to end war with Iran do not include Israel. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu claims to have stopped direct fighting with Iran, but fundamentally opposes the terms of the U.S.-brokered peace deal. In early June 2026, Netanyahu officially acknowledged that direct fighting between Israel and Iran had ended following an Israeli attack on Tehran. He and his cabinet distanced themselves from the ceasefire, stating that Israel was not bound by the agreement and would continue to operate independently to ensure its security. Netanyahu argues that the US-Iran deal does not guarantee Israel's security. Regardless of the deal, he has asserted that Israel will do whatever is necessary to defend itself and prevent Iran from obtaining nuclear weapons. Opposition leaders such as Yair Lapid and Ehud Barak have criticized the deal as a failure that leaves Iran's regime intact, while weakening Israel's geopolitical position. Netanyahu has made it his life mission to prevent a nuclear-armed Iran. He argues that Israel has established deep security zones around its borders and is prepared to resume unilateral measures against Iran or its proxies if the threat resurfaces. Shigella disease is spreading in India, especially in Kerala. At least 6 people have died due to Shigella disease, health officials say. More than 150 cases of Shigella, a waterborne bacterial infection, have been reported in India, with Kerala currently the worst hit. Kozhikode and Malappuram are the worst-hit districts. The rapid spread of Shigella in the state has raised significant public health concerns. At least 6 deaths have been recorded this year, with a sharp increase in deaths during the monsoon season. More than 150 confirmed cases have been recorded across the region since January, with dozens of new cases emerging in the last month alone. Children under 5, who are among the most vulnerable groups, and the elderly are the most likely to succumb to severe dehydration and complications. State health authorities have found that the contagious intestinal infection spreads through contaminated water sources and inadequate sanitation. The state government has formed a high-level committee to enhance disease surveillance and epidemic preparedness in all the affected districts. Authorities warn that if you are currently experiencing symptoms such as fever, severe abdominal pain, or bloody diarrhea, it could be a sign of Shigella disease. Australian police have seized 2.7 tons of cocaine from an underground bunker in Western Sydney. The drugs, with an estimated street value of $816 million, were found on Friday in compartments concealed beneath false floors in 3 shipping containers at a property in Londonderry. 2 men aged 21 and 25, who allegedly attempted to flee from police, were arrested at the scene and charged with possessing a commercial quantity of an unlawfully imported border-controlled drug. Police say the cocaine was smuggled into Australia via the small town of Midge Point in North Queensland on the orders of an organised crime group. Police said the raid on the Londonderry property was part of Operation Minjiang, which was launched in May after 40 kg of cocaine was found floating in the water off a boat ramp at Midge Point. An alleged mother vessel suspected of being part of the smuggling operation has also been detained in Solomon Islands. Despite its remoteness, Australia is a lucrative market for the drugs trade, with cocaine typically fetching around $300 per gram, according to an illegal drugs monitoring system run by the University of New South Wales. Australians and New Zealanders also have the highest cocaine use rates in the world, according to last year's UN World Drug Report. At least 47 people have been killed in Lebanon following a series of Israeli airstrikes. Meanwhile, the Israeli military said 4 of its soldiers also were killed. The Israel Defense Forces, IDF, said it had struck 80 targets linked to the Iran-backed armed group Hezbollah and killed dozens of its members. The strikes come a day after the US and Iran signed a deal aimed at ending the conflict in the Middle East, including a permanent cessation of hostilities in Lebanon. Both Israel and Hezbollah have carried out strikes against each other since the deal was announced. But on Friday afternoon, a US official confirmed an immediate ceasefire between the two had been agreed. Prior to the news of the ceasefire, Israel had said it had no intention of withdrawing its forces from Lebanon, and had insisted that its conflict with Hezbollah was separate from the war on Iran. Prior to that, Lebanon's health ministry said that as well as the 47 people killed in the country, 97 people had also been wounded by Israeli airstrikes. Lebanon's state news agency had earlier described the overnight bombardment across the Nabati district on Thursday as one of the most intense of the war. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu extended his condolences to the 4 Israeli soldiers killed, writing on X on Friday that he had instructed the IDF to strike Hezbollah with full force. British Prime Minister Keir Starmer has resigned as Prime Minister. Keir Starmer is stepping down as Britain's Prime Minister, 2 years after leading the Labour Party back to power in a landslide victory in the United Kingdom. His resignation is expected to lead to the departure of Greater Manchester Mayor Andy Burnham to Downing Street, analysts say. Although he was elected with the largest parliamentary majority, Starmer's decision follows months of pressure from Labour MPs and cabinet ministers to distance himself from the party's electoral prospects, due to the rapid rise of the far-right Reform UK and the disappointing results of May's council elections. There was a sense even among Labour supporters that Starmer lacked political courage and conviction. This was underlined by missteps, including cutting winter fuel subsidies for pensioners and making a U-turn on welfare funding following last year's parliamentary rebellion. And Starmer's decision to appoint controversial former Labour Minister Peter Mandelson as Britain's ambassador to the US has also been seriously questioned in his judgment. The question my party is now asking is whether I am the best qualified to lead us into the next general election. I have heard my parliamentary party's answer to that question, and I accept that answer with good grace, Starmer told the media outside 10 Downing Street on Monday. A massive fire broke out in Aliganj area of Lucknow in Uttar Pradesh on Sunday afternoon, killing 15 people, aged between 16 and 25. The fire broke out at an animation coaching center above a shop in Purania area of Aliganj, causing panic among the students. 6 students were injured and were admitted to KGMC Hospital in Lucknow. Most of the deaths were due to suffocation. The fire broke out inside the institute building and spread rapidly, trapping people inside. It was a shopping complex with coaching, games zone, and showrooms. Firefighters, police officials, and district administration officials reached the spot and started rescue and evacuation efforts. Some people tried to save their lives by jumping from the first floor. The fire brigade personnel broke through the wall and entered the building. Deputy Chief Minister Brijesh Pathak told the media that a high-level committee comprising the DGP and additional Chief Secretary will investigate the matter and find out the reasons behind the fire to ensure that such incidents never happen in the future. BJP and RSS attack on Christian place of worship center in Kerala in India. The attack was carried out by BJP RSS activists in connection with allegations against the elderly care center run by Pastor Binu Vajamuddam, who runs the place of worship. While the police were investigating a case of assault on a 17-year-old boy at the old age home under the place of worship, the BJP RSS anti-national forces launched an attack on the institution and the place of worship attached to it. The important fact is that the day they chose to attack was Sunday, which is the day of worship for Christians. About 200 RSS BJP activists reached the Elohim Global Worship Center in Pathanamthitta shouting slogans and stopped and assaulted those who had come to worship. According to its administrator, Pastor Binu Vajamuddam, the matter is now before the law enforcers and the court, and taking the law into his own hands by defying the court proceedings and unleashing attacks and beatings against the institution will have serious consequences, he added. He also said that if any children have been abused in the institution, they should be given the maximum punishment under the law. Another important point, he says, is that Omalur Panchayat President Mohan Elohim, a BJP member who led these problems and beatings, has a personal enmity with the Global Worship Center. He alleges that the Panchayat president has not yet given permission for their 1.25 acre land in Omalur despite approaching him since 2022, and that all this is due to vendetta. It is learned that the police have arrested some people in connection with the beatings at the place of worship. In short, under this Snehathanal, the only benefit he gets from keeping the elderly, the destitute and the drug addicts together and rehabilitating them is love. Trying to stop their worship because of a problem that happened in their charity is absolutely ridiculous. Almost all the media reacted because what the BJP and RSS have done is pure nonsense. They are asking, despite the gold and money being poured into temples and party offices, beatings and killings, none of us have come to protest. So why are they trying to stop our worship? An explosion at a gas processing facility inside Qatar's massive Ras Laffan industrial complex has killed 13 people, most of them Indians. It is one of the deadliest gas industry accidents in more than 2 decades and has injured dozens. State-owned Qatar Energy was working to restart LNG operations at Ras Laffan, which were halted following an Iranian attack in March. The plant had been completely shut down for emergency maintenance since December 2025 and had only restarted for the first time 2 days ago, Kabai told reporters. The dead included Indians and Pakistanis. Qatar Energy has launched a full investigation into the cause of the accident. Energy Minister Kabai stressed that the accident was not sabotage or hostile in nature and posed no threat to the environment.